Hey everyone, Mitch coming in from the Commander's Core Studio. Welcome to the show. So on today's episode, I'm going to be taking you through, not my list, the community's list, according to EDH Rec, on the Salt scores of the most hated enchantments of all time. Yeah, these can get the table salty, so if you have one of these in your deck, look out, because the table might come after you if you play it, and some playgroups don't even want to play against them, so I should say, I guess, be wary of playing these cards in general, unless you know that your playgroup or those at your LGS are okay with them. With all that said, let's jump into it. And the 20th most salty enchantment, yeah, there's a lot of really salty enchantments out there, is Overburden at 1.69 on the salt scale. It's an enchantment for 1 and a blue that says, whenever a player puts a creature card into play, the player returns a land they control back to its owner's hand. Now, obviously, this has been, errated over time, or, the Oracle text has changed, I guess. It's worded in a weird way, but you understand what it does. Essentially, when your creatures come into play, you need to bounce a land back to your hand. That is something that is, well, what most players don't want to do. It's the exact opposite of what players want to do. Typically, they want to get creatures in play and keep their lands. But this says, no, you know what? Let's slow you down. Now, a landfall deck might want this. Like, sure, I play a creature. Cool, get land back in my hand. Play my land for the turn, get the landfall triggers. And so, yes, you can build around this card. Or if you don't have any creatures in your deck and you're just slowing your opponents down by de-ramping them, absolutely. But the vast majority of players out there don't like when you touch their lands typically. So yeah, that's why this is so high on the salt scale, and I hope to never see it personally in a game of Commander. I've not seen this one yet, and I really hope I don't. Moving on to number 19, just touching up with a little bit more salt, just a few more pieces of salt in there. 1.72 on the salt scale. Rule of Law, enchant for 2 and a white. Each player can't cast more than one spell each turn. So you might see a pattern with some of these cards is Magic players typically don't like when they're slowed down. When it comes to like Overburden, like I talked about, hey, losing lands, this is like, nope, you get 1 per turn. Everybody gets 1. Okay, all right, you got yours for the turn. Now it's your turn. Do your 1. Your turn. Your 1. Now, obviously, you can play on other players' turns with, say, instant speed spells, but still you're limited to 1. Just 1. And also, Rule of Law tends to be in control-heavy strategies where maybe, let's say, that player's also playing some counter spells. So, again, like, on that player's turn, when they're casting a spell, you're like, okay, counter it, and you can't counter it back because you already played your 1 spell. So, yeah. Yeah, this card can be a little obnoxious. It is very budget-friendly as well, so yeah, there's definitely more decks out there that can play with it. That being said, it is really hard to deal with in a control shell. And yes, 1.72 on the salt scale because players don't like to be slowed down. And yeah, this can shut down certain strategies like Spellslinger too. Next up, at 18 on the salt scale, we got 1.73, just a little bit more salt right there. Price of Glory, an enchantment from, I think that's Odyssey, which is way back when I started playing Magic, and I did not play with this card for 2 and a red. Whenever a player taps a land for mana during another player's turn, destroy that land. Okay, so again, like I talked about in Overburden, players don't like when you touch their lands, especially when it's like kind of their own fault a little bit, but it's like a perceived choice that's not a real choice, essentially, because this is essentially players can't play on each other's turns. This is just basically only you can play on your turn, and that's it. Now, there are exceptions to the rule, but it's very costly to do so, obviously, because if you play on my turn, if you tap your lands on my turn, they're going to go bye-bye. And maybe I've got some ways to, like, get my lands back out of my graveyard, or maybe I've got an indestructible land. Yeah, you got ways to get around this potentially if you're playing it, or you just don't care because you're playing Group Slug and you're just trying to make everyone miserable at the table because why not? I mean, there's reasons why not. Regardless, this is one that, again, I hope to never see at a table. 1.73 on the salt scale. Next up, we've got Contamination. This is a very strange card, and Reminiscent of another card that may or may not be on the list later. We'll talk about that here in a little bit, but it's an enchantment for 2 and a black, and it says, during your upkeep, sacrifice a creature or sacrifice contamination. Whenever a land is tapped for mana, it produces, well, black instead of its normal type and amount. So essentially, hey, you know how you all, spent all that time, putting together your mana base and, ramping and fixing your lands? Too bad. Everything is just basically a swamp right now. So essentially, yeah, I mean, there's a downside to, this card for the player that has it, right? That makes it fair, right? Because they have to sacrifice a creature. Well, here's the thing. Some decks out there are completely okay with sacrificing creatures. In fact, aristocrat-style decks want to sacrifice creatures. So if you have it in a shell of a deck that actually cares about sacrificing things, well, you're gonna take advantage of that side of it too, while you also take advantage of you being maybe the only person who actually play cards, and your opponents maybe can't because they're not in a mono black deck, or like, a 2-color black deck, or whatever you are playing where you're taking advantage of this one. Regardless, 1.76 on the assault scale because it doesn't destroy lands, but it destroys their use essentially. So yeah, there's a reason this one's on the list. Moving on to number 16. Now, don't worry, everyone. No. At the table, this one does not, all right, mess with your lands. It just messes with everything else. Embargo is an enchantment for 4 mana in blue. Non-land permanents don't untap to the controller's untap steps. At the beginning of upkeep, you lose 2 life. So again, like in, another format, like say Standard back in the day, 2 life is a lot per turn, right? That's like 1/10 of your life total. But in Commander, no, 2 life is no big deal at all. Like, people throw 2 life around like this and that for no reason at all. It's fine. Like, shock me each turn. I don't care. Anyways, that is going to be, what, 1/20th of your life? You start at 40. You're fine. Plus, you can gain life in a multitude of ways. And also, you're going to have a lot of time to do a lot of things because your opponents are going to be, in trouble with this. Again, their non-land permanents aren't going to be untapping ever. Ever. And if you have this in your deck, you probably have ways to tap their things, so you're just going to have those things tap, and they're never going to be used again. Sorry, your mana rocks? Nope. Your creatures, not blocking, not attacking, not doing anything. All those things, they do nothing. Thank you. Thank you so much. I mean, I guess, like, if they have enchantments in play as well, those typically don't need to tap, so those are fine. But, like, yeah, artifacts, creatures, whatever. They're all tapped. They're not going to come untapped. And also, sure, I'll take the 2 life. Look, everyone... Oh, no. Ow. 2 life. Oh, look, it's hurting me, too. It's hurting me, too, even though I built my entire deck around this, and I've shut you out. So, yeah, 1.77 on the assault scale. Not surprised to see it up here as well. And on the opposite end of things, at number 15, who knew this was a red card? Smoke. An enchantment for red. Each player can only untap 1 creature during their untap phase. Okay, a 2-mana, low-to-the-ground enchantment, and in red, again, the most aggressive color, the hasty color, the let's swing things, let's hit each other color, no blocks, let's go! But, you know what, actually, let's just slow things down just a little bit, and, yeah, only untap 1 creature, everyone, okay? Let's just play fair, all right? Everyone, yeah, you swing with a creature, cool. All right, cool. You swing with a creature, cool. Oh, you tapped your land or for mana? Okay, cool, yeah, good. Okay, now on your turn, only one creature. Okay, 1 creature, you untap that one? Okay, cool. I'll do 1 as well. I probably have a Voltron Commander, and I only care about 1 creature. So I'm going to smack you for 20, smack you for 25, whatever it is. I've got 1 creature, or I don't have any creatures, and I'm just trying to slow everyone else down with, again, this low to the ground, really weird red enchantment, 1.78 on the Salt scale. Yeah, this card deserves to be up here. Smoke and Salt. What's not to love about it? Well, a lot of things. Moving on to number 14. Again, this one is from a long time ago, like 1994, I believe. So it is worded quite weirdly, but we're going to get the gist of it, okay? An enchantment for 1 blue. Mana Vortex, 1.79 in the Salt scale at 14th place. Each player controls land... sacrifices 1 land during his or her upkeep. If at any time there are no lands in play, Mana Vortex is destroyed. If you do not sacrifice a land when Mana Vortex is cast, Mana Vortex is countered. Okay, so basically, you play this, you've got to sacrifice a land, and then essentially, on upkeep, every single player sacrifices a land. There you go. It's weirdly, again, like, each player controls land. That's weird. A land, maybe? I don't know. But yes, basically, every single turn, we all go down 1 land. Cool. Oh, it's fine, though, because, it's like the exact opposite of what you do on your turn, right? You get to play 1 land on your turn, too, so it's all even, right? Not that I probably have ways to get around this or ways to use and abuse it, or maybe I just have a bunch of mana rocks that I don't care about lands. So yeah, this is a card that, sure, you might be able to convince others that it's hurting you more than it's hurting them, because I had to sacrifice a land when I played this. But you didn't have to play the card. Yeah, this is a card that is pretty brutal, really old, kind of hard to read, but yeah, definitely deserves its 1.79 on the Assault scale. Moving on to number 13. Let's turn things in a different direction right here on the episode. Well, at least temporarily. We might turn back at some point, but previously, with basically all the other ones we talked about, they're all basically resource denial in a way. I mean, Rule of Law is kind of like denial of like casting multiple things, but they're basically all resource denial. Omniscience is not about denying resources. In fact, it's like, you have all the resources. This breaks a rule in Magic, and that rule is, hey, pay for things. Enchantment for 7 blue, blue, blue. You may cast non-land cards from your hand without paying the mana cost. So your opponents still have to pay for things. You just invested a lot in this enchantment, right? You paid 10 mana, or you probably cheating to play somehow. Anyways, with that, you are now able to just not have to spend mana on anything. You're just like, this free, this free, this free, this free, this free. Oh, I played a giant draw spell. All these new cards. All these free, all these free, these free, free. Bring all these things back. Play, 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 play. Can lead to some really broken, really stormy, really crazy, and really I win right now turns. So yeah, this is an I win the game card. Again, the exact opposite of all the other ones, which were like, this game's gonna take a long, long time. Haha, slow things down. This one's more so, no, I win right now because I got this in play. Oh, yeah, you're gonna try to stop me now? Free counter spell. Oh, you're gonna try to stop that? Free counter spell. What you gonna do about it? Oh, I don't have any more counter spells left. Okay, I'll draw 5. Oh, look, another counterspell. Free counterspell. Omniscience is crazy powerful. And again, yeah, it does cost 10, but typically, players are cheating into play in one way or another, so 1.81 the Assault score. Not surprised to see it there. Next up, I can't but can believe that this is actually on the Assault scale at 1.83, 12th place according to EDH Rec on the Assault scale. Divine Intervention. Oh my goodness, $121 for this? What is going on? Okay, here we go. Enchantment for 6 white, white. Put 2 counters on this card. Remove a counter during your upkeep. When you remove the last counter from Divine Intervention, the game is over and considered a draw. This is an incredibly unique card. I don't know, and let me know in the comments below if I'm wrong on this. I don't know if there's any other card that's just like, hey, the game ends in a draw because this happened. I mean, there's other like ways and combos that you can utilize that like stalemate the game. But this actually, your goal if you play this card is not to win. You're spending 8 mana on an enchantment and then a couple of turns, essentially, to get the counters off, unless you've got another way to get the counters off, essentially. Then you just draw the game. You didn't win. You just drew the game. You went through all those steps. Everyone shuffled their 100-card decks. Everyone played this game. And then all of a sudden you're like, you know what? No one wins. Okay, let's shuffle up and play again. And I'm going to try to do that again. So, yeah, there's a couple of reasons why this card, is pretty salt-inducing. Because players are like, well, what did we do that for? Why did we sit down to play this game if no one won? What? And the fact that that player spent $121 to do that and went through all that effort, yeah, that might just make it a little worse. So yeah, 1.83 in the Assault scale. I love seeing this one on here because, yeah, Divine Intervention, you definitely deserve that 12th place. Next up at 11th place, mini spoiler right here, we might see another somewhat similar card to this one, but Overwhelming Splendor. Not surprised to see you here. 1.85 on the Assault scale, and Enchantment Ora Curse. I think it's the only Ora Curse that's actually on this list. Very interesting. Enchant player for, again, 8 mana. Divine Intervention mana right there. 6 white, white. Creatures enchanted player controls lose all abilities and have base power times 1/1. Enchanted player can't activate abilities that aren't mana abilities or loyalty abilities. This is, hey, we're all playing Magic over here, okay? And you get like, all your creatures are tokens, basically. All 1/1 tokens, okay? That do nothing, okay? That's just what they are. Your commander that you built your entire deck around and that you need in play, you need it to do things, doesn't do that anymore. Our commanders do. Our commanders do. Yours doesn't, okay? Okay. Yeah, this is essentially, we're all playing Magic and you are playing checkers over there. This is a way to shut one player down, and It's not surprising to see this one up there. It's really interesting to see the other one at some point. We'll talk about here in a little bit. Again, spoiler. But, yeah, this one made the list because let's single that player out and say, you don't do anything anymore. Yes, can it be dealt with? Can all these enchantments be dealt with? Yes, technically, but still, it's a very salt-inducing card again, especially if you have no way to get rid of this. If you have no way to get rid of this, and you're just sitting there, and it's staring you in the face, and it just says, you can do nothing, then yeah, you might be having a bad day. 1.85 on the salt scale, good enough for 11th place. Next up at 10th place, though, let's turn things back again. We just kind of took a little left turn at Omniscience. It was like power, power, power. Oh, okay, yeah, taking players down. Cool. Back to resource denial. Mana Breach, an enchantment for 2 and a blue. Whenever any player plays a spell, that player returns a land they control back to their hand. Okay, kind of like overburden, but maybe even worse. Yeah, because it applies to everything. I mean, overburden's like ETB creature, but like this is like, hey, whenever you cast anything, just do anything. Even when, like, the player tries to remove this, they have to give up a land to do so, which is pretty hilarious and pretty mean and, okay, not at all funny. Never mind. Anyways, 1.92 in the salt scale. Good enough for 10th place. Yeah, forcing players to lose out on their lands, that is something that is pretty much always going to be salt-inducing in Commander. Next up at 9th place with 2.00 on the salt scale, to exactly, we got Blood Moon, and I did kind of reference this one earlier, or allude to it, I should say, from Contamination. The effect is known to many out there in many format. Enchantment for 2 and a red, very simple, very effective. Non-basic lands are mountains. Now, Contamination, I believe, when I talked about that earlier, affects all lands, not just non-basics. So there you go. Here's your little lesson, all right? Play more basics, because that'll help you get around this. Now, are there going to be times where, like, even if you are playing a ton of basics, you just happen to have some of your non-basics, and then you draw your Evolving Wilds, and you're like, oh, okay, well, I don't really have mountains in my deck, but I guess this is a mountain now, because I can't sacrifice it. Oh, darn. Yeah, this is something that, again, can shut players down, essentially, just for a 3-mana enchantment and saying, oh, you had your mana fixed. Again, you worked on ramping. You worked on fixing your mana. You worked on getting the right lands out. And all of a sudden, yeah, they're all mountains now. So I hope that you need red mana, because if maybe you lost out on some of your mana, different kinds of mana, you're in trouble. You might not be able to cast things from your hand. So have fun with that. So again, this is not resource denial technically, but it's like changing the resources. And players don't like when you're touching their resources. They don't like when you're touching their lands, especially. Blood Moon definitely deserves to be up here. 2 on the salt scale. Again, 2.00, I should say. Good enough for 9th place. Next up, though, moving on to 8th place, also at 2.00. There must be, like, some extra decimals after that, essentially, but EHREC has them ordered this way, so I'm just going to keep it this way. Impending Disaster, an enchantment for 1 and a red. During your upkeep, if there are 7 or more lands in play, sacrifice it and destroy all lands. Ooh, okay, so typically, if you're going to destroy all lands, that's going to cost you what? I don't know, like 5-6 mana? And also, players don't like when you play those. That's a different episode, I guess, right? For the sorceries, that typically there's sorcery speed when it's like, destroy all the lands, cool. This is 2 mana. Okay. But wait, there's a requirement on it, right? And sure, maybe in like a one-on-one format, that is a requirement that takes a little bit of time to meet. But let's just say that you literally play this on curve, and you're like the 3rd or 4th player going. Everyone's like, okay, land, go, land, go, land, go, land, go. And then all of a sudden it's turn 2. Land, go, land, go. And then you're like, okay, land, go, impending disaster? Everyone's like, what? Yeah. I mean, you probably wouldn't utilize it that early, but that's how quickly it can go and just demolish all the lands in play. It literally only takes like 2 turns in Commander to get to 7 lands for everyone. Not 7 lands for everyone, but 7 lands for the entire table. So when you do play this, this is a 2 mana. As long as it sticks around, it is going to destroy every single land in play. And players, here's the thing in Commander. Their number 1 pet peeve might be mass land destruction. And this is mass land destruction. So again, it's not a stacks piece where it's like, hey, let's slowly do things, or I'm going to like do some things and you can't do some things. This is more so, no, nobody does anything. Let's destroy the lands. Yay, slow things down, start over, cool. Or again, maybe I've got a way to make my lands indestructible or to get them back, or yeah, just unbalance the scales a bit. There's a reason this one's on the list. 2 mana for a mass board wipe Yeah, it's going to make it. 2.00 on the salt scale, 8th place finish. Next up, though, at 7th place, we've got Back to Basics with 2.14 on the salt scale. An enchantment for 2 and a blue, non-basic lands. Don't untap to their controller's decks. Untap next untap steps. Untap steps. Any untap steps, not just the next one. That would be, well, it'd be kind of weird on an enchantment, but also it'd be much nicer than this. No, this is brutal. This is effective. This is, again, hey, Blood Moon's like, you know what? Everything's a mountain. You can still maybe use the mana. This is like, oh, okay, did you already have those lands tapped? Oh, all right, you don't get to use them again. Cool. Yeah, this is a brutal card. Again, play more basics. Not that, you should be expecting to play against this one against the vast majority of tables out there, but still playing more basics is a very good thing. Basics are great. Love basics. That being said, again, if and when you just happen to have non-basics in play and this comes down, you're like, okay, I really hope that I didn't have that tapped. Okay, I've got like all my non-basics tapped except for one. Do I even want to ever tap that? Because if I do, then I'm just out of that land too. Oh, no. Yeah, this is a card that is brutal. It is resource denial, a specific resource denial, but still, it goes a long way. Just 3 mana. Back to Basics. It's not surprising to see up here at 7th place. Again, 2.14 on the salt scale. But now moving on to 6th place, 2.17 on the salt scale. Hey, here's a quick question. Do players like when they have their lands, messed with by an opponent? Yeah, we've gone through this a couple times, right? No! The answer is no. Typically, no. Rising Water is an enchantment for 3 and a blue. Lands don't untap their controller's untap steps. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, the player untaps a land they control. Again, look, this is fair, okay? Everyone's got to do it. I'm only untapping 1 land each turn. Now, that being said, I do have 10 mana rocks in play, but don't worry about that. Yeah, this is essentially, hey, back to basics, but for every land. But you know what? I'm going to give you a break. You can untap 1 land your upkeep. Okay, cool. All right, we'll just go really, really slow. All right, everyone just gets 1 thing each turn, okay? All right, glad we got that figured out. 2.17 assault scale for a reason. Again, don't mess with players' lands or they're going to get salty about them. Good enough for 6th place. Next up, again, kind of like with Omniscience, we're going to take another turn, okay? We're going to go back away from resource denial to just straight up denying magic. Humility, 5th place, 2.22 on the assault scale. I referenced this one earlier with Overwhelming Splendor, the OG. Enchantment for 2 white. Each creature loses all abilities and is a 1/1 creature. Again, unlike Overwhelming Splendor, again, this is just, hey, it affects me too, all right? It affects me too. I mean, I don't have any creatures in play, but if I did, it would affect me too, right? This is a way to essentially, again, turn the game of Magic into checkers. Everyone just has 1/1s that do nothing. Your commanders do nothing. All your things do nothing. Nothing at all. I mean, your other cards do, but creatures are a very big part of Magic. So, yeah, now they're all just 1/1s that are just nothing else. So, yeah, it just takes it down to, again, checker level, essentially. So, and of course, if you're playing this kind of a card, you're probably playing in a control shell where you don't really depend on creatures ever, maybe. So you're like, again, not getting affected by this really. All 3 of your opponents are, though, so worse than Overwhelming Splendor in that way. But yeah, 2.22 on the assault scale. Not surprised to see this one finish 5th place. Next up, I was kind of surprised this one actually didn't finish even higher, but yeah, it's up there. 4th place, 2.22 on the assault scale. Smothering Tith. This thing has been, well, to some, a problem in Commander since it was first printed. My goodness, this just kind of, well, started off the treasure stampede into Magic, into Commander. Just demolishing the format left and right. If you see a Smothering Tith played, it's gonna change the entire aspect of the table. It's like, okay, that's threat number 1. The player's gonna get way too far ahead. Goodness gracious, please don't wheel. Please don't wheel. Enchantment for 4 mana in total in white. Whenever an opponent draws a card, they may pay 2. If the player doesn't, you create a treasure token, which of course has. Tap, sacrifice this artifact, add 1 mana of any color. Again, this was like before treasures were really like all that in Magic. And it was like, wow, white finally gets a way to ramp. My goodness, look at that go. And yeah, this should have been like, instead of 3 and a white, should have been like white. Make it incredibly restrictive. So sure, then it helps mono white, but not the other ones. Anyways, off the soapbox, yeah, this is absurd. This is crazy powerful. This is so powerful. Again, it's not resource denial, but it kind of is actually, because if a player is drawing a card, they have to deny themselves the resources to deny you of that treasure, which you are basically just getting for free every single time, because 2 is a ton of mana to pay. And when one player doesn't pay the 2, the other one stops paying the 2, and then all of a sudden, again, that player has 85 treasures, and they are way ahead of everyone else. Again, this warps the game completely the second it comes into play. I have seen players steal this thing left and right, destroy one, copy another, do everything they can to just get a hold of this because it is such a game-changing card. And of course, again, if a player wheels once, the game is probably over. Essentially, they say, okay, yeah, everyone, discard your hand, draw 7. All right, does everyone want to pay 14 mana? No? Okay, I get 21 treasures. I win. Yeah, it's a crazy, crazy powerful card. Very salt-inducing. Good for 4th place, 2.22 on the salt scale. Next up, another, well, okay, at the time it wasn't color pie breaking, but now it definitely is. Nether Void. 3rd place, 2.23 on the salt scale. Also, $539. Wow. Eat your heart out, Divine Intervention, for that cost. Enchant World. It's an enchantment that is just a non-aura enchantment, I think. I don't know. Anyways, it's the old card. Anyways, Enchant. It's Enchant World. 3 and a black. All spells are countered unless all spells cast are countered unless their casters pay an additional 3. Again, worded weirdly, but we know what it does. Basically, hey, you cast something, you gotta pay 3. If you don't, it's countered. So why'd you cast it? Just to get it countered. Basically, every single one of your spells, everyone's spells, including the player who plays this, all of them are going to cost 3 more on a 4-mana enchantment. This just taxes everyone an extra 3 on every single spell they cast. Yeah, I mean, you're not like slowing players down when it comes to like their lands not untapping or whatnot, but you are saying, oh, you got your lands? Okay, well, everything's a lot less effective because you have to pay an extra 3 mana on everything. And unlike Smothering Tith, it's not like, oh, okay, cool, like you can choose not to do that and I just get a benefit. It's like, no, if you don't do that, you can't cast spells. So a permanent countering effect that just has a massive taxation, yeah, there's a reason why this is on the list. Good enough for 3rd place, 2.23 on the salt scale, and again, $539. Next up at number 2, and yeah, I was not surprised to see this one up here either. Rhystic Study. I mean, an infamous card in Commander, right? You're going to pay the 1, you're going to pay the 1, you're going to pay the 1, you're going to pay the 1. It's obnoxious. And I kind of forgot to mention that about Smothering Tith, which is also why that is up there too. You're going to pay the 2, you're going to pay the 2, you're going to pay the 2. This is the OG when it comes to annoyance, though, and asking that question because it's enchantment for 2 and a blue. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, you may draw a card unless the player pays 1. Ooh, goodness gracious. This is a card that was, I mean, I guess I wasn't playing Standard at the time, but I would assume awful in one-on-one. Like, not a very good card. Essentially, it's like, okay, I tax my opponent 1. My singular opponent, I tax them 1 on their spells. But they can choose not to, and then I draw a card, which is a little bit of value, but probably not worth it for a one-on-one at 3 mana. But in Commander, when you have 3 opponents, and again, you have people, not paying their taxes on it, then other players don't pay their taxes on it. So either it is a permanent taxation for all 3 opponents, an extra 1, which again is 3 times more valuable than in a one-on-one setting, essentially, or it is, hey, I'm drawing like 3 extra cards every single turn, probably even more than that. So yeah, this is an absurd draw engine in Commander that is also low to the ground and absolutely obnoxious. You're going to pay the 1? You're going to pay the 1? You're going to pay the 1? Yeah, because of that question, because of that phrase, this is up here at 2nd place, 2.29 on the salt scale. But finally, at 1st place, the winner of the saltiest card. Congratulations, Stasis. Just congratulations. Everyone's so, well, a little applause right now. Everyone's so happy for you, Stasis. You did it. And in really impressive fashion. All right, so the number 2 place, again, Rhystic Study was at 2.29 on the salt scale. Stasis is at 2.99. This, I believe, last time I checked, is the 1st or 2nd most salty card of all time, I think, to Winter Orb. It's either first, I think they go back and forth, but like, it's up there. It is one of the saltiest cards of all time, if not the saltiest. And its art is super simple and cool. Anyways, enchantment for 1 and a blue. Each player skips their untap phase. During your upkeep, pay blue or bury Stasis. So you know how the other ones were like, okay, like, you can't untap your non-basics, or you can only tap 1 land a turn. This is like, no, No one untaps anything ever. Oh, by the way, I'm a 2-mana enchantment. Yeah, there is a downside to it, right? Like where you have to keep paying blue or you're going to have to sacrifice it. Bury was the old term. But, yeah, you got ways to get around that. You got ways to, like, maybe just keep producing that amount of mana each turn, or maybe just have a giant reserve of cards, or ways to untap things, essentially, outside of, you know, your upkeep or your untap step. Yeah, there's ways around it. And even if not, just, like, throwing this in play and be like, okay, we're just not going to tap things for, like, 10 turns. Okay, let's see how it goes. Did you guys do anything? No, me neither. Okay. So again, either it is just a lockdown piece that just slows everyone down to a crawl, and again, like, shuts players out of the game, essentially. If they're already tapped out, they can basically, like, play a land and be like, okay, I played a land. Not gonna tap it right now. Pass turn. Okay, hopefully I draw into more lands to just play and tap. Hopefully. Yeah, this is a crazy, crazy powerful card. Crazy salt-inducing effect. Again, nothing untaps. Ultimate resource denial. 2.99 on the salt scale. Congratulations, Stasis, you did it. Number 1 enchantment on the salt scale. But now as this episode is coming to a close, it's time for me to hear from you. So in the comments below, let me know what enchantments you think that weren't on this list should be up there on the salt scale, or what new enchantments that haven't had a chance to get on the salt scale yet are going to be up there in your opinion. What ones don't deserve to be up there that are up there, and what is your least favorite enchantment? What is your saltiest enchantment that you know? So yeah, let me know in the comments below if you are interested in these cards. Well, first of all, I do want to mention that again, these are the types of cards that many players out there, obviously, that's why the salt scale kind of exists, don't like playing with or against. So if you're going to utilize these cards, well, ask first. Again, for certain play groups, they're completely fine with that. Certain people at the LGS, completely fine with that. Others, not so much. And these are ones that I would urge you not to assume that players are okay with, because this is the type of card that you play it, and then all of a sudden people are like, oh, okay, that's happening. All right. Well, that was nice playing this game with your Stasis, but I'm going to go play at another table over there, okay, after this one, okay? No reason at all, okay? So, check with your play group first, or those are your LGS, and if you are interested in these cards, check out that card list link in the description below, and of course, as always, thanks again, and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.